Alright, this is hopefully a very quick video. I just wanted to look at why someone might do stratification, that idea of stratified random sample. And so what I did was I just set a proportion of a population, and so suppose you're doing something that you would like to make sure that something that makes up 1% of the population actually gets into your sample. Okay, so now that could be even something like putting together representative committees, you know, in the student body. So you could be saying, oh, you know, we've got this big state university, and we like to, you know, try to figure out, you know, our stance on, you know, investing in a particular area of the economic sector. And you know, you pick all sorts of things these days that, you know, we may be interested in either investing in or divesting from, because, you know, the university maybe says, well, that just doesn't fit our kind of goals in education and so forth. So you know, it could be, you know, I'll pick something somewhat reasonable, I think. You know, so suppose you want to look at investing not so much in a company, but investing in your food service, and you are wondering about vegans. And you know, I'm not sure, I haven't looked up what percentage of the population would be vegan, but let's just say that at your very large state university, 1%, or possibly even at a smaller school, you know, 1% is vegan, but you'd like to put together some sort of group to look at, you know, investing in whatever it would take to better serve vegans. Well, it seems reasonable that you would want a vegan on that committee, at least one, if not more, but let's just go with one. And so what I've done is I've taken the proportion of the population at 1%, and in here I've just said, well, supposedly we wanted to put together 20 students to help us look into this, and we just chose randomly among the student body. Well, what I did was I simply made a random number, R-A-N-D with the parentheses, so that just makes a random number between 0 and 1. And so then what I did here was I said, well, count how many of these are less than 0.01. So anytime we got one of these, you know, so you could think of it as numbering people at the university, and anybody who had a number below 0.01, they were vegan. And so in this random sample, a simple random sample, we're counting. And so notice in this first one 0, the second one 0, but there's one here, and it's right there, 0.005. You know, here, I don't know, there's one somewhere in there. You might see it as you're looking at it. I'm not noticing it. Oh, here we go. So this 10 to the negative fifth thing, so that's a very small number, definitely less than 0.01. Okay, so this is just counting, and then this is out of 1,000 trials, 1,000 random samples, how many of them actually contained at least one designation in this 0.01, so in our case a vegan. And we see that only 180 of the 1,000 trials, so a simple random sample, you know, says, well, you know, maybe 20% of the time, if you randomly chose students out of this population, and did 20 students, well, about 20% of the time you would get at least one vegan. Well, that's really not good. So you'd want to find out who are vegans and go ask them, or go randomly pick from them. That's the strata. And just to kind of show it gets even worse, if say we only needed a group of 10, well, now only 83 out of 1,000, so about 8% of the time do we actually get somebody in there. And if we had as small a group as 5, only about 6% of the time do we seem to get somebody from that sample, from that group. And so, in a quick nutshell, that's why you want to sometimes do stratified random sampling, because you might want to make sure you get something of a particular population. Again, it doesn't have to be a person. I mean, you could be looking at fungi or something like that, but you want to make sure you get that into your sample, and so therefore you would do some sort of stratification and break up your population into those strata. And just to show that, if this had been 50%, if we were just looking, excuse me, if we were just looking at something like, male female, which in many populations would be around 50%. So if I say 0.5, now notice, with this small a sample, that here not everything had a total of at least 1. And as you look down here, well, this had 4 of whatever the 0.5 or lower designated, either male or female. This one had 2, this one had 4, 4, 4, but notice that one has 0. So that would have either been all female or all male if that was this criteria up here in the population. And so even there, with this small number in our sample, even at half the population, there's at least some chance. I mean, this says 98% of the time we would have at least one member of this part of the population, this strata up here. But that means that 2% of the time we don't. And so even then, if you for some reason really want a particular representation within your sample, you should probably think of a stratified random sample. So that's it for this video.